Woldeyohannes, and I'm a PhD student at the University of New Mexico. I've been working here in the community for the past few years, mostly focusing on issues relating to trash disposal, waste disposal, and exposures to those issues here on CRST. And so I'm just going to be giving an overview of the different studies our team has been conducting that examine the environmental and health impacts of trash burning and unregulated waste disposal on CRST in the communities here. So we started these studies given community concerns and known issues related to disposal of waste. And so unregulated waste disposal in CRST and really around the world is an overlooked environmental injustice that disproportionately affects many rural and indigenous communities. And this is due to challenges in waste management infrastructure that often lead to people dumping of trash in open pits and burning of waste in unregulated manners. So trash burning releases many harmful chemicals into the environment, the most common being phthalates, pesticides, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, often referred to as PAHs. So phthalates are chemical compounds that are often used in plastics to make them more flexible. They're found in various other products such as cosmetics, food packaging, and medical devices. Exposure to phthalates is associated with adverse health effects, including endocrine disruption. Pesticides are chemical compounds used to control pests. So these include insecticides, herbicides, and fungicides, just to name a few. And exposure to pesticides is associated with adverse health effects, including endocrine disruption, cancer, and neurodegeneration. And then lastly, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, are chemical compounds composed of two or more fused aromatic rings. And these most commonly come from burning organic matter. These types of chemicals are known to be toxic to humans, and exposure to PAHs is associated with adverse health effects, including cancer. Also released commonly from trash burning and unregulated waste disposal is the release and propagation of microplastics. So microplastics are microscopic plastic particles, and they're spread through the environment through the breakdown of plastic waste. These microplastic particles contaminate the soil. They're then taken up by plants and then transferred into animals and people that eat the plants. This process is what we refer to as bioaccumulation. You can see this artwork here. It was designed by one of our team members and shows basically this bioaccumulation process where you're seeing plastic waste disposed of in the environment, breaking down into these microplastic particles, contaminating the soil. And then it is uptaken into the plants through the soil. And actually, these microscopic particles, they become embedded in the plant tissue, so then when an animal comes and eats it, or like someone harvests it and cooks with it and eats it, it can accumulate into the body of the animal or the person. And we have a big printout of this artwork on display in the hallway by the auditorium, and I encourage everybody to go take a closer look at it. And so basically exposures to all these compounds I'm talking about, as well as the microplastics, have potentially very adverse human health effects. And then exposure to these compounds in conjunction to, say, exposure to other chemicals in the environment, such as metals, pesticides, or industrial compounds, can exacerbate existing health issues that somebody may have. And so, again, these studies we are conducting that I'm going to describe are in direct response to concerns from the community regarding waste dumping and open burning. And overall, what our team is trying to do with these studies is to really better understand the connection between local waste burning practices, chemical exposure, and community health outcomes. So far, our team has mapped 9 unregulated trash dumping sites across CRST. And to understand how burning trash at these sites might affect people's health, our team is using a variety of methods, but primarily to measure chemicals released from trash burning, we're using special silicone wristbands. These bands collect chemicals from the environment, especially those when trash is burned. And I have a few here that I can show you guys, but so they're basically like a standard Livestrong silicone band. You can set them up in the environment as a passive sampler, like on a tree near a burning site or something, or somebody can wear them as they're going about their daily activity. And we work with a lab that has developed an assay that can get a mass concentration and see what different chemicals are depositing on the band. And so I'll pass these around so everyone can take a look at them. But yeah, so we're using these wristbands in two different ways. So the first is, as I was mentioning, is where we deploy the wristbands near burn sites, acting as passive environmental samplers. And then the second way is having community members wear the wristbands as they go about their daily activities to assess exposure on the individual scale. And so I'll start by just going over the work using the bands as passive samplers. Community partners have placed 10 of these wristbands at locations near burn sites, including large dump sites as well as like family burn barrels. And so these are placed at various distances away from waste burning locations at different times of the year and under different weather conditions. And the sites we sampled were chosen by community team members based on the number of people impacted, the frequency and intensity of burning, and the accessibility to sites. And so at these sites we observed various items in the trash, including personal care products, insect repellents, plastics, and cleaning supplies. And from analysis of these bands, we observed all three of those chemicals that I described, the pHs, phthalates, and pesticides. Overall, we detected 28 unique chemicals, including 6 chemicals that are currently banned by regulatory agencies such as the US EPA. And of note is a chemical that is called PCB94. And so this chemical is often found in electronics, which leads us to believe that there is some electronic waste in these trash sites as well. And chemicals like PCB94 are known carcinogens and can cause a variety of serious health problems. So I'll now go over the study using these wristbands to assess individual exposure. So the aim of this ongoing study is to examine environmental chemical exposure among individuals and community level health outcomes and explore how a person's activity is related to their environmental exposure. So what we're doing is we're asking participants to wear the silicone wristbands for 2 7-day periods during different seasons. And while wearing the bands, participants fill out a daily log that helps us identify where they're going, potential daily exposures, and consistency of wristband use. And then in addition to the daily log, participants fill out a health survey, they take part in interviews, and provide blood and urine samples. And we're working on using this combined information to link chemicals found on the wristbands to people's daily activities and potential health effects, and to see how exposures might change with the seasons, understand co-exposures with other environmental contaminants such as metals as well. And so I'm just focusing on the wristband work here, but if you're interested in our team's work specifically looking at metal exposure and heavy metal exposure in the community, I encourage you all to return to this room at 1 o'clock when my colleagues, Dr. Esther Erdai and Lyle Best, will be giving a presentation on the heavy metal studies being conducted on CRST. And so far we've conducted a deployment of wristbands and surveys last fall, and we have a second deployment planned soon for this spring. We received results from the fall wristbands last week and have started analyzing the data. We just got them back on Friday from the lab, so I can't talk too much in detail about that, and we have to go through IRB approval and things like that. But I can mention that we are seeing a lot of the chemicals that we saw in the environmental bands and many different carcinogens that people are coming into contact with as well. And so far we've conducted a total of 110 surveys. So we had 10 people actually wear the wristbands, log their activity, and provide the biosamples. And then we had 100 additional people in the community just take the health and environmental exposure survey. So survey results are indicating high rates of waste disposal by burning or exposure to trash burning. And as you can see on the map here, there's a lot of variance across CRST based on the survey results. So basically these color circles, the green and the red circles, are the different communities that we surveyed across CRST. And in the green areas, we didn't have any reports of people reporting exposure to trash burning. And then the red is where we got at least one participant reporting exposure to trash burning. And you can see it varies a lot between the different individual communities. And then additionally, in addition to the trash burning, people reported numerous different health issues. So digging deeper into these survey results, we see that residents demonstrated a range of waste disposal behaviors that may place them at greater risk for exposure. So 17% of CRST residents reported that they burn trash in a barrel, at home, or are exposed to trash burning in some way, including just like smelling burning trash, observing neighbors burning trash, or encountering burning trash during their daily routines. And prevalence of the improper disposal behaviors include 12.8% of people reporting that they burn trash near their home, 7.3% reported that they specifically use a burn barrel, and then 2.7% reported disposing of trash in open pits. And again, as you saw on the map, the rates of trash burning range by community, with 16% of those surveyed in Eagle Butte are reporting some type of exposure, to up to 100% reporting in the Blackfoot community. And looking at reported health issues, nearly 52% of participants reported experiencing at least one health condition, including high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, kidney disease, asthma, thyroid disorders, gallbladder disease, and scoliosis. And so we're currently working on analyzing blood and urine samples and are looking at the wristband results we got back. And so we're developing individual report backs. So this is an example of one of the sample data pages that an individual participant will receive. And so first, participants who wore the bands and were involved in the study will get individualized reports on their blood and urine results, as well as the wristband chemical results. And then after those report backs are finalized, we'll provide a generalized report to the whole community. And so right now, again, we're working on looking at trends in the survey data and analysis of the wristband chemical results, which will allow us to understand common exposures and identify key chemical compounds of concern. And using this collected data, our team is working on generating and integrating personal exposure variables and participant activity into combined geospatial predictive models to deepen knowledge about combined exposures and to better understand community exposure patterns and how someone's individual activity space relates to their potential exposure and chemicals are coming into contact with in relation to the locations of the burning sites. And so while we're working to understand this issue, there are actions you can take now to reduce your exposure. So if possible, just simply reducing the amount of material you throw out and reusing what you can will go a long way. And if it's an option, try to take your trash to a local regulated landfill. And then if you must burn trash, try to burn upwind and at least a quarter mile away from other people to help reduce others' potential exposure if you have to burn trash. And yes, I'd just like to acknowledge our partners at Missouri Breaks, the community members we worked with, and the funding agencies that make this work possible, as well as our diverse team of researchers and community partners involved in these studies. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for attending today. And yeah, I'll take questions now and open up to discussion. Thank you.
I often look at the weather on a weather app on my phone to see what to wear that day, and they always give the AQI, and I think South Dakota is one of the windiest states in the United States, and I think the other day we had the worst air quality. I think it was 160 something or something.
Yeah, it's
and I wondered with the airborne toxins that can be blown in from all kinds of regions, how that affects your studies. Do you put that as part of the data that day, or do people note that on their diaries? is that a factor at all? But when I burn trash or ranch over Yellowstone, we always do it far away from where our house is, and we make sure there's no wind or the wind's going in the right direction to dissipate. And I feel bad about contributing to the particulate matter, but it's a convenient way for us to get rid of our paper products. It's hard to recycle. You know, they did a story on the 60 Minutes where all those recycling were put at the different sections and they follow that, and it winds up being kind of a hoax, you know, they don't really do it. And this only like 1% of plastics get recycled and things. The things that worry me are the heavy metals and the radon and the uranium and arsenic and that sort of thing, affecting people's health and genetics.
Most definitely, yeah, it really like depends on like your county as to how well the recycling system works. There's a lot of variance between different places, and there's a lot of, I'd say most of, you know, the US still has a long way to go in actually effectively recycling. But like the measures you mentioned, like trying to burn, being upwind of it, burning away from your house, away from other people like you can, that really does go a long way to helping to reduce your own exposure and other people's exposures. And like you said, you're burning paper products, which like there's always like different types of harmful chemicals released from everything, but paper, you know, is better than plastic, is better than like electronic waste and things like that. And that's like a big concern of like these unregulated pits that you can see in some of the pictures.
It's really hard to reduce plastic use. I got family members, I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
everybody's here, but everything's plastic, you know? Like in that movie, The Graduate, plastics.
Yeah.
It's probably the most scary thing in our environment to me.
Oh yeah, no, and there's a lot of research. Some of my colleagues at UNM are showing there's plastic in placentas, there's plastic in fetuses, in our brains. It's everywhere. And no, it's a terrible issue. But and then to address your comment about like the pollution coming in from other sources, we are considering that, like the meteorological conditions during the sampling events, and then as part of the interviews and the activity logs that people are doing, we ask them questions like, did you witness any other type of exposure source today? And a whole suite of questions like what vehicles are driving, what like cleaning products they're using, to try to understand like different sources of where these chemicals might be coming from, and cross-reference that with what we know is commonly released from trash burning, to kind of see like which chemicals that we're detecting on the band are coming from just like other sources besides the trash burning.
And there's chemical residue from field burnings, you know, it was a natural phenomenon, the buffalo helped, the lightning helped, but now these are man-started burns of crops that had pesticides and herbicides and chemicals, then active airborne, and so that's kind of why I mentioned it yesterday, the quality being bad, and I saw a lot of sick people just from that. Yeah. And that's microplastics in the air that are coming in with the wind from the burning of fields and agriculture.
Definitely.
So it's just really a tough problem.
It really is, yeah.
I talked a lot.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for your questions and comments. Yes.
So with the results, what is the plan from all of this?
So a lot of this is we're really first trying to understand what is being released from these trash sources, and then building this evidence that the community can take to say different regulators or other things to really point out that this lacking municipal waste infrastructure that makes it more convenient or necessary for people to burn waste is contributing to this environmental issue. So it's really like building up an evidence base to show that like in situations where the community can advocate to get, say, more funding or other things to build better waste infrastructure so people don't have to burn trash as much as that. So I think that the real end goal is to try to reduce this like unregulated dumping and burning of trash.
She was next.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Is there like any proactive things that, because there's a lot of herbs out there that we can ingest in our bodies that help, you know, detoxify the body of metals and everything like that. That is really important to put in our daily lifestyle. And then the other thing is what my concern is like exactly where we're burning these, like, and what it's doing to the land and to the soil, you know. And then there's fungus, research of it, and there's fungus out there, mushrooms out there that do eat plastic and can, you know, help the earth out, because the earth has everything to, but is there, back to my first, what really gets in my brain is, you know, like eating cilantro and taking silver dye, colloidal silver, and swishing that around in the mouth and like really understanding, you know, what these metals are doing to our bodies. So is there any studies like that, like to push out this information that we have, everything that we need to heal for Missouri breaks, or is that just like might be a herbalist thing?
Yeah, I've read a little bit about what you're talking about with herbs and stuff like that. I'm not directly involved in work like that, and I'm not sure if Missouri Breaks is either. But I think anything that can help detoxify or things like that, or traditional practices that you're aware of, I would encourage. And
I wonder if promoting those plants that do help detoxify, like our bodies, would help. You know, you could plant those plants on the land and see. I don't know. I mean, that's just where my mind goes to help heal.
Well, you know, some of the biggest effects of the metals is oxidative stress, which causes inflammation, and inflammation in your body makes everything worse. Every organ of your body and every disease is worse if you have inflammation throughout your systemic. So I mentioned earlier that the only thing I've seen, well, of course, first thing is reduce the exposure. Okay, that's, you know, that's the first. But if based on just trying to ameliorate the effects, then the only thing we've seen is you know, fruits and vegetables, but especially fruits, as antioxidants, to eat antioxidants, foods rich in antioxidants that seem to reduce the effect of metals from air pollution. Did you, by the way, did you have people who were doing the burning wear the wristbands?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so that would be an interesting group versus everybody else.
Yeah, no, in the cohorts we had people that did the burning and some people that did not, and people at different distances from the main burning sites we identified as well. And so that's one of the main things we're gonna look at in the results we just got. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. It's very informative. I have a question. Last summer, the mosquitoes were horrible. They just swarmed. Do you take into account that spraying that goes on during that time?
So we are doing this study in different seasons. So we did the first deployment kind of in early fall, and we're doing the next deployment pretty soon during this time of year. So it should be about when you're saying the mosquito swarms start. But we haven't actually, that's very interesting, we haven't thought about the mosquitoes, or if they could be a potential vector or something, or involved in some way. But we are definitely accounting for differences in seasonality, and interested to see if we see differences in the chemical exposures based on the seasons.
I have a quick question. So this trash study, have you guys just done it on CRST or any other indigenous communities? And if you guys haven't, then what was your interest for doing it on just CRST?
So we've looked at trash sites in a couple other communities because of I won't mention their names specifically because we haven't gotten permission to talk about it. But yeah, we've done it in a couple of communities, some in Montana and New Mexico. And these are communities that were partnered with our research center at UNM, and so that's kind of this trash burning issue is very widespread, not just in indigenous communities, but various communities throughout the U.S. But so it's in the communities we work with, the trash studies is a component of those broader research projects with them.
I hate to talk twice, but I'm well known for it. You know, the military had all those burn pits over in Iraq, and did a lot of studies on the health effects of those burn pits and the brave soldiers that participated there. Is there data from that can coincide with some of the chemicals that you all are studying in your research that get you a head start or a foot up?
Yeah, so those studies have shown definitely some certain chemicals we might want to look for. And I know the military burn pits, a lot of that was especially bad because they were burning various chemical waste. I haven't looked specifically.
Commonality.
Yeah, there's certain chemicals that we might be able to like highlight or look for in the results for the
Because
data.
of known health effects.
Yeah, but in those burn pits, there are also a lot of like solvents and other very specific chemicals that they were burning that hopefully aren't present in the sites and the communities we're working with.
Have you gone to the, where trash disposal is here through CRST and looked at, sampling, core sampling or anything here?
I haven't specifically, but I think Missouri Breaks has done some work looking at soil samples, and things like that, and some of my colleagues in other communities have done that as well. Yeah. I think you have time for one more quick question.
You get like wildfires, you seem to get more and more of that
You know, when
each
you
year.
get it done.
You gotta be like
Because there's always
skewing any of
something
the data collection and all, or.
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is part of like the sampling, we're looking at like the air quality indices, meteorological conditions, and then like having people, in their surveys, like report like, was there like smoke in the air today and other things like that to kind of understand like that as a potential source as well.
Could I just add one thing, because in response, that we are now monitoring the particle pollution levels here in Eagle Butte at the Kenya Foundation, and that's some work we're doing. So you can go online and you can, you're saying you look at the air quality index, but those measurements are from Bismarck or
They're
something.
general, yeah.
Yeah, but if you look online for purple air, there's a map there and you can see our station.
Okay, right here.
Right here, yeah,
Thank you.
on Spruce Street, and it will tell you what the pollution levels are right now. We also have a weather station there, so you can look at weather underground and see which way the wind is blowing, and, not that you don't know that, but, the temperature, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that information is getting local now.
It's such a big problem. I kinda hogged some time with it. It's really close to my heart because it seems so frustrating that there's no fix. Like we're just burying ourselves in our own, modern lifestyle that's invaded, a natural lifestyle.